S.H.FIGUARTS Berserk Griffith Hawk of Light was released on the 25th of October as a regular release and retails for 1400 yen or roughly over $100 based on the current conversion rate. I bought my copy right here in Japan, but if you're still looking for one, he should be restocked at most of your usual online import retailers like Ami, Hobbylink Japan, and Amazon Japan. In fact, he's a little cheaper on Amazon Japan right now, so if you want to grab a deal, that's probably a good place to go. So here he is, guys, Griffith as he appears in the Millennium Falcon arc, donning his full Hawk armor in all its divine glory. This is the second entry to the Figuarts Berserk line, and like Guts, Griffith was sculpted with meticulous care to recreate a faithful depiction of Griffith from 2D animation to 3D 6-inch figure form. A bit of background information on Griffith, as I mentioned in my Guts review. If you haven't already checked that out, I'll have a link in the description or floating around right now. Do check it out after this review, but there was a really interesting interview put out by Tamashii Nations with the sculptor in charge of both figures, who gave us a bit of insight to how closely he worked with Studio Gaga, Miura's own production company. Both figures were sculpted from the skeleton up, adding upon each layer the body, the armor, the way Griffith rides his horse, everything with a close guide from Studio Gaga, which is why both Guts and Griffith look so uncannily close to the source material. It's not just the gorgeous details, the beautifully sculpted feather motifs, or the gold embellishments. It's the way all the pieces hide the joints that gives the figure a statuesque appearance whilst retaining a substantial amount of movement. I'll get into that a little later in the articulation section, but first I want to show you this masterpiece of a figure. Griffith is the polar opposite to Guts, but you can tell the same amount of detail was put into both figures, with completely different design elements. Griffith's armor is beautiful, to say the least, flamboyant, and every little feather detail, every strap, buckle, and crest is gorgeously sculpted. The armor is silver with a bluish tint to it, matching the bluish tint in his luscious long hair. It's more of a flat silver with a slight pearlescent finish rather than a straight up glossy coat, which I think better depicts his appearance from the manga and has worked out better in terms of any potential paint rub or scratches. Unlike Guts, the cape isn't meant to be removed, although you can do it if you want. I don't recommend it, however. It's held in by these two pendants, which have pins that plug into the figure. I tried to take one out to see if it was in fact removable, and it came out without too much fuss. However, once I took it out, it just doesn't stay in as tightly as it did originally, probably because it was glued in and wasn't meant to be taken out. The fabric itself is a glossy material, 2 layers sewn together with bendable wires. It looks very fitting for Griffith. The purple and white has a regal feel to it, but the problem is that it can be a little thick at times. Functionally, it works great and holds its shape and weight, so there's no problem posing it. I just wish it were a little thinner. What I love about Griffith is that he is a lot more durable than initially expected. I had a bit of bad luck with Guts, where the shoulders would unhinge and the straight pegs wouldn't hold the weight of his sword. But with Griffith, who still has those straight wrist pegs, doesn't require him to hold up so much weight, so it works. I still would have preferred your traditional ball peg, but so far, so good. But the best part are the shoulder joints that they've used this time. They're larger, much more poser friendly, no more having to worry about dislodging hinged joints or hands coming off when posing. Griffith is actually fun to handle. I also like the plastic Tamashii have used with this figure. It's a mix of soft and hard plastics, hard where it needs to be hard and soft where it needs to be soft. Like the spurs, the breastplate to give you that little bit of extra articulation, and all the straps that are prone to snapping. Obviously, you still want to be careful, but it's such a load off knowing that this isn't going to fall apart every time you handle it. So I gotta hand it to Tamashii, top marks for engineering and use of materials this time. Now we get to the all-important head sculpts, and I don't think I've ever seen a guy with more beautiful, luscious locks. I guess the easy thing about Griffith is that he's not the most facially emotive, especially when you compare him to Guts. We get 2 expressions, a cold, stern, calculating look, and an innocent smile, obviously masking his true intentions. Both faces beautifully printed, and of course, probably his most defining feature, his long, luscious mane, which has a hinge on the back of the base of the head, which does move up and down. and the 2 locks of hair that run down the side of his face are on ball joints, so they do have a bit of movement as well. The hair is a flat white with blue shading to highlight all the curls and details in this sculpt. We also get an extra faceplate with an extra hairpiece that you can attach to the helmet to give Griffith a full armor option. The great thing is that the visor or face guard is hinged, so you can have the face guard up or fully covering his face. The extra hairpiece attaches to the back of the helmet and you get yourself Griffith in his full armor attire. Of course, you can also take all those pieces apart and have Griffith holding his helmet as well. So what's next? Oh yeah, this big hunk of plastic. Yes, we get Griffith's warhorse included in the set, which is more of a display piece than anything. It isn't articulated in any way, shape or form, but he or she is a pretty looking war pony, as he or she should be. Anyway, a solid plastic white horse with a soft plastic overlay which pretty much covers the entire horse. You have the rope ties around the neck, a silver ornamental headpiece, front armor, a beautiful golden saddle with flexible stirrups. Yep, I needed to Google that. These little footrests are called stirrups. Did not know that at all. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but someone will tell me in the comments. And on the back, more of the same silver hawk motif armor. You also get a pair of reins that attach to the headpiece, and Griffith comes with a pair of hands to hold those reins. There's an interesting excerpt from the interview with the sculptor talking about how Griffith would grip the reins, and apparently there's a proper way to actually do it to hold them, but since Griffith didn't hold them properly in the anime, they kind of look past it. Griffith, of course, sits comfortably and pretty securely on his warhorse, feet in stirrups, hands in reins, and it makes for a pretty impressive display piece. Definitely something that would turn heads on any shelf. Alright, so let's take a look at the articulation for Griffith. First up, the head up, head down, and those hair pieces at the back at the front, they do move accordingly. The back piece again is on a hinge, so it does move up and down. The 2 locks of hair on the side of his head are on ball joints, so they can move out and up and down as well. Griffith does move his head side to side, and you get a bit of tilt, actually a lot of tilt as well. You have some very good butterfly joints. Griffith can bring his hands, and you can, if he was a double hand sword wielding character, you can actually do that, but he does bring his arms very well into his chest. These shoulder armor pieces are on hinges with little ball joints at the end, so they do move up and out of the way. You just got to be careful. The shoulder joints are much sturdier than with Guts, and he does move them out 90 degrees, 360 at the shoulders, a bicep swivel perfectly hidden there with his armor. The elbow armor pieces here are a separate loose piece, so he does get pretty good double jointed elbow movement. And of course you have your swivels at the wrist and hinges as well. As I mentioned, the breastplate here is a softer plastic, and so is this lower piece of armor as well. So for ab crunch, it's not the best, but you do get some range. Again, it is a ball joint going in through the middle, so it does move around and around and side to side. The straps and the sheath here are a softer plastic, so it does move out of the way, and it's a lot softer, so there is no fear of snapping or breaking. The legs, the upper half of the armor is again a softer plastic, so it does have a bit of flex. Not that you would have Griffith do the splits like this, but he can go pretty far for an armor wearing character. He does have upper thigh cut, again, which is hidden there by the armor. Moves his legs up and forward 90 degrees. And he does kick back relatively well as well. Double knees. Very good range for double knees. Again, I love how the knee armor does conceal the joint, so it does look like he doesn't actually have a joint there, but very well done. I really like that. For his feet, these spurs, as I mentioned, are a softer, very rubbery plastic, so they're not going to break. Feet go down, feet go up, we get a toe hinge, and of course, some decent ankle articulation. So Griffith comes with a pair of sword holding hands, a set of relaxed hands, a right salute hand, and a left rein holding hand. We also get his golden saber, which comes in two pieces, the saber itself and the guard piece, which you need to attach. The design of Griffith's saber wraps around his entire hand, so that's why the sword was separated into two pieces. It's a bit finicky to get into place, but once you have it in there, it's pretty secure. There's also another option with just the hilt, which like most sword-wielding characters, just slides into the sheath. So everything I loved about Guts, from the incredible attention to detail to all the accessories which make that release feel complete, is right here with Griffith. Take away the issues I had with the wrist pegs and the shoddy shoulder joints, and you have yourself one of my favorite figures to come out this year. Sure, the wrist pegs should have been ball pegs, and the cape can be a little bit cumbersome, especially since it's quite heavy compared to the figure itself, but the sturdier joints, the fact that I can actually pose the figure, as delicate as it may look, with ease, is such a win in my book. It could have easily been a fiddly mess, but so far I've had a lot of fun with Griffith. The accessories are great and give you some good options for display, and the horse, despite being a statue, I think adds to the whole package. I've never owned the Figma version, so like Guts, I don't have a basis of comparison, but the Figuarts have given us a really complete package here. As I mentioned on my Guts review, I'm all for this line to continue. I've always enjoyed Berserk. It's one of my go-tos, at least once or twice a year. The character designs aren't your traditional anime style characters we see today, and the two new reveals we got over the last weekend from Tamashii Nations, Zod and Shirke. I'm even more excited for the Berserk line. Can't wait for Zod, he looks incredible. Alright, that's it from me. Sorry this review took a lot longer than expected, but thank you for sticking around till the end. November is going to be yet another jam-packed month with some of the most anticipated figures for this year. The new Super Saiyan Goku, Android 19, Kenobi Darth Vader, and one that I don't usually look at on my channel, but I love the anime as a kid and just had to pick up, Figurize Metal Greymon. So a ton of reviews still to come, but that's it. Have a great rest of the week. Buy some of my stuff, shirts, sweaters, and I'll see you all real soon. Yoroshiku!